Hi, everybody. Good evening. It is great to, can't say see everyone. This is definitely a different open house, but it is great to have people joining. And for those that watch the broadcast later, we do appreciate people, families coming to learn a little bit about MELS. You're in the right place if you've arrived tonight to hear a little bit about the Metropolitan Expeditionary Learning School and our high school open house. I'm Pat Finley. I'm one of the co-principals of MELS. I was one of the co-founders 11 years ago. And before I worked at MELS, I worked in the DC public schools and the Baltimore public schools and taught in Chile and worked in the South Bronx. And about 11 years ago, was fortunate enough to have the experience of working to help open MELS, the Metropolitan Expeditionary Learning School. It is a 6 through 12 school. I'm going to hand off to the other co-principal, my partner, to make some other introductions. Thanks. It is great to have you all on an evening where there certainly has been a lot going on, and we send our best to all of you during very challenging time, and with some challenging news that came out today, and we do just want to recognize that. So again, thanks for coming. Nice to have you, Damon.
Hi, good evening, everyone. We know that, like Pat said, many of you are trying to figure out what you might be doing tomorrow with some of your children now that schools are closed. We want to thank you for joining. One person has already figured out that we are using the Q&A function for this webinar. So at the bottom of your Zoom screen, you should see a little button that says Q&A, and we will have some folks answering those questions throughout the evening. Like Mr. Finley said, this session is also being recorded and will be posted to the MELS YouTube page, and we will be sending information out about that as well. My name is Damon McCord. I'm the other co-principal and co-founder of MELS. I started teaching over 20 years ago in Flint, Michigan. Came to New York, and I've been in New York for the last 20 years as a teacher and assistant principal. And the highlight of my career has been working at MELS the last 10 plus years with our amazing staff and families. So we want to make sure those of you that are here are in the right place. So if you are here in attendance, it is because you have an 8th grader who will be going into the 9th grade next year. If you are the parent of a 5th grader, that open house starts at 7 o'clock. We will be having our middle school open house at 7 o'clock tonight. But this is for an incoming 9th grade student, so a current 8th grader. We are going to go over a few things about the school tonight. We're going to show a brief video that kind of highlights some of the practices in place at MELS, and then we'll try as much as possible to get to the questions that haven't been answered in the Q&A down below. So before we get started, I do want to introduce some folks that are here. We have Hillary Mills, our assistant principal, who I would ask to turn on her camera and introduce herself really quickly.
Hi, good evening. I'm Hillary Mills, known as Miss Mills, not Miss MELS, as some people think. It's really glad you all are here. Someone asked in the question and answer, but this is our 11th year, as both Mr. McCord and Mr. Finley said. This is my 10th year at MELS. I came during this 2nd year as a founding 8th grade teacher, 8th grade science teacher, and then looped to help start the high school and taught 9th, 10th, and 11th grade science, and then have transitioned into my role as assistant principal about 4 years ago. So really, really glad to be here. Also excited to introduce someone else who's very important in our community, which is Ms. Scheckman, one of our guidance counselors and a pillar in our counseling department. Ms. Scheckman.
Hello all, welcome. As everyone said, my name is Ms. Scheckman. I have been the guidance counselor at MELS for the past 8 years. Before that, I was a science teacher at a middle school in Forest Hills for 10 years. I love being at MELS. It speaks to both my education philosophy And the role I have as a guidance counselor has been really fulfilling for me. So welcome to everybody, and I will introduce our incredible parent coordinator, Ms. Ashley Garcia.
For some reason, Ms. Garcia is unable to make it right now, so we are going to drop her email in the Q&A at some point tonight. She is an incredible resource, and if you have any questions, you should feel free to follow up with her or reach out to myself and Pat Finley. I'm going to turn it over to Pat to talk a little bit about the history of MELS.
So again, thanks everybody. It's great to see you or have you here joining us. We are in our 11th year. So last year was going to be our 10th year celebration, but unfortunately we had to cancel those plans due to the school closures due to COVID-19. Before that, we did open in 2010 with a 6th and 7th grade, and we added a grade each year. We have now graduated, I believe, 5 classes in our high school. And, we're not going to spend a lot of time tonight talking about the data. It's certainly available, and you can check it out online. And we'll make some references at the end of tonight to some of the reasons why MELS has been really successful. But I do want to just name in the 5 years of graduating classes we've had, we have graduated about 98% of our students, with about 98% of them being accepted into college. And then once students do go off to college, our college rates of students in school at the 6-month mark have been about 90%, and at the 18-month mark, about 82%, which is one of the highest numbers in all of New York City, that for any school that's not screened. So we are really proud of that, and we have worked to get students into, our goal is to prepare students for the world after high school, and we've gotten students into Ivy League schools, and we have gotten students into local schools. So we work to meet your child where they are. Our school has done quite a bit in a short time. We're really proud of that and some of those accomplishments. And I will just say that definitely last year, as with other schools, we were impacted by the school closure. So I do just kind of want to name that because that's part of our history. And we have worked really hard. Our staff is very dedicated to getting to know kids well and doing all that they can to support students. So, we do have a lot of live instruction here in remote learning. And I don't say that because you hopefully will not have that next year. Hopefully we will have everybody in the building, but it does just speak to the kind of school we want to run. We want there to be connections with kids. We don't want it to be all asynchronous posted work. We want there to be live interaction, and we still want to look for opportunities for students to push themselves and grow. So we have kept our same structures like crew, and expeditions, even in this pandemic and shifting of schools, because those things have been important to us for the last 11 years, and we will keep them no matter what the circumstances are. If you want to learn more about our school, our history, you should visit our website. There's some great pictures in our archives, some articles, and it's worth checking out. Ms. Barcia's here, so I'm going to very quickly shift to Ms. Barcia introducing herself, and she can hand it back to Mr. McCord to talk a little bit about MELS. Thanks.
Hi everyone, so sorry for my delay. I'm Ms. Garcia. I am the parent coordinator. Hola, buenas noches a todas mis familias que hablan español. Yo soy ecuatoriana, entonces cualquier pregunta en esta cita que sientes que quieres preguntar en español lo puedes poner y yo le puedo responder. Estamos muy alegres para tener a todos ustedes esta noche. Otra vez, cualquier pregunta que usted tiene, no ponga duda, ponerlo en chat en todo español y yo te lo puedo contestar. Hi, I've been working here. I'm really excited to meet all of you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and I'll hand it back over to Mr. McCord.
Thanks, Ms. Barcia. What Ms. Barcia did not mention is that she is an alumni of MELS, and one of the alumni that we are most proud of. So it's great to have her back as an adult, doing an amazing job at communicating with our parents and keeping people informed. So a little bit about the mission and vision of MELS. When we first started MELS, we wanted to do something much different than most schools were doing, especially in District 28, but also in Queens. Most of the schools in Queens tended to be fairly traditional and not really rooted in experiential learning or learning by doing or doing any kind of project-based approaches. And so we wanted to start a 6 through 12 school that really embraced this idea of the progressive model of education, which is not focusing on standardized testing, looking at the whole child. And so at MELS, as a result, there's a pretty significant emphasis on students learning things that are relevant to their lives now and the challenges they face in the future, as well as a component of really being able to connect to others in your school and not just kind of showing up to school, doing your work and going home. So MELS really emphasizes character and community at our school. Because we are seated in District 28, we are one of the most diverse schools in New York City and possibly New York State. It is something that we think is our biggest strength, is that we have students from all over Queens from a variety of backgrounds. So we have students that might be having some real challenges with a consistent home situation. And we have other students that have a lot of resources. We have students that had strong test results and a strong middle and elementary school experience before coming to us, and students that did not have a great experience. Racially and ethnically, we are incredibly diverse. This is not a school where everyone is the same. For a number of our students, it's the first time they've gone to school with a white kid or gone to school with an Asian kid or a black kid. So it really is something that's incredibly important to us, and we really invest in not only valuing that diversity, but also making sure that we're having conversations as a staff and with our students about issues around injustice, white supremacy, implicit bias, things like that, that are incredibly relevant to the world our students are going into after graduation. So again, we are focused primarily on real world experience, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Finley to talk a little bit about our partnership with EL Education and New York City Outward Bound.
Thanks. And this, I'm just trying to adjust. We've been doing this again for 11 years, and I'm just used to having an auditorium full of people to look at and see. And I wish that was the case, because I do like looking out and seeing District 28 represented. And for high school students, incoming ninth graders can apply from all over Queens and New York City. So it is nice to see families, and I miss that tonight. But again, the format for tonight is us just providing as much information as we can to families, and then we're answering questions in the chat as we can, and then we'll also try and answer some questions at the end. But again, we just want to get as much information in your hands as parents and as eighth graders, soon to be ninth graders, for you to make this really challenging decision of where you're going to spend the next 4 years in a system where there are hundreds of schools. So I do want to talk a little bit now of MELS and the academic portion. And one of the main things to know about MELS is in the name. We are an expeditionary learning school. And what that means is we are partnered with a group called EL Education, Expeditionary Learning. They were partnered with Outward Bound, if you're familiar with Outward Bound. And for those families that want to do a little research, it is worth digging in beyond our website and looking into the Outward Bound or New York City Outward Bound websites, and as well the EL Education website, just to learn about this partnership we have, where we're partnered with hundreds of schools across the country that are urban, rural, large, small, elementary school, high school. and all high performing, but what they really have in common is a dedication to kids. And that dedication to kids, as Mr. McCord kind of mentioned, is rooted in a progressive philosophy of knowing kids well, teaching kids about the real world, and building experiences that are going to prepare kids for success. So three structures that I'm going to mention right now, and then we're going to watch a short video that Mr. McCord's going to cue up. But three structures that are just kind of representative of this partnership and this idea of a partnership. The first is I want to talk about crew. So in many high schools and in middle schools, there are advisory periods. And, that period at MELS, when we're in the building, that's the first 30 minutes every day. And that's a small group that kind of operates at MELS like a small family unit where there's no more than 16 students, and kids are known really well by a particular adult, and you spend 2 years with those students. And crew really, one of the most important things students can learn isn't necessarily like how to use a microscope or, which invaders came into a certain country in a particular year. Like, one of the most important things students can learn is how to work with one another and persevere through challenge and collaborate. And crew is really that place where we're supporting students with the skills they'll need in all of their classes. The skills of working with one another, the skill of being organized, the skill of working hard, persevering, skills of understanding the world that we live in. And also that's where a lot of our college work lives too, as we're in ninth grade greeting students, getting to know them, making them feel comfortable, getting them ready to take risks in that ultimate risk, their 12th grade year of applying to college. Another structure aside from crew is student-led conferences. Student-led conferences are something that we do in crew, that students prepare, not just to show up at a conference where you hear from a teacher for a minute of, yeah, your child did their work, but you didn't. Instead of student-led conferences, it's just that it's a student leading the conference on that parent-teacher conference night, and the student is going through their portfolio, showing their work, talking about their strengths, talking about their challenges. And again, it's this idea that students aren't receivers of information. At our school, we really believe that they are active learners. So getting kids to talk about their work is incredibly important. And then the last structure I'm going to mention, and again, it's not the only one, but a third structure that all EL schools have across the country that we really believe in. We don't do these structures just because we're told we have to. We do them because, again, we are bought into these being the best ways for students to learn. Is we organize our curriculum in what we call expeditions. We still teach the same content required by the state. Students, are taking science courses and history courses and English and math and foreign language and social studies. But the way we organize the content, we organize it not by chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, following a textbook, but rather their teachers organize the content in a way that makes sense for kids in learning. Like, where are those connections in global history to English class? Where are those connections to science class? And let's organize and put the curriculum together during the course of the year in a way that makes sense. And the result is what we call expeditions. Those are our units where kids are learning things in science that connect to social studies and English, math, and foreign language. And at the end of that expedition, they're showing that knowledge in some, some kind of product or performance or outcome. So again, crew, SLCs, expeditions are some of the things that make us an EL school and are important at our school. And if you want to dig a little deeper, you can. I'm going to ask Mr. McCord to tee up a video for people to see these things in action.
Our support system is really, really amazing. Whether it's peers or your teachers or your principals, you know that you have a whole bunch of people behind you supporting you and pushing you forward.
And that's what really drives our success, is being supported. So when I feel that support, and us as individuals feel that support, then we can go ahead and domino effect that towards the students.
In our schools, there's this really powerful sense of community. There's this ethos of we are crew, not passengers, where everybody takes care of and looks after one another.
We basically stay in the same crew class throughout all 4 years of our high school experience. And like your crew basically becomes like a little family.
Crew and the cooperation that happens in classrooms really helps to build connections between students and teachers and empathy for one another.
Teaching compassion and teaching character is a part of the curriculum.
It's important for you to know and be able to take accountability for the things that you're learning.
The work that we do is entirely student-centered. We think about our students constantly, both who they are, but also where they're at.
I've been able to push past my comfort zone. Brooklyn Collaborative has kind of just made me persistent to the point where I believe that I can succeed in any setting.
The academic work that students do really pushes them beyond what they thought was possible.
Having to do research, not just like answer questions on a test. Students learn more.
One of the unique things about my school is the hands-on learning model. We do a lot of taking notes and just a lot of critical thinking. It's helpful not only here, it's a lot of preparation for college.
When our teachers design curriculum and they build our units, which are our expeditions, they look for content that is meaningful and relevant.
Outward Bounds is a model that does think about the future and all that it does. And I believe that's the reason it stresses getting out into the community and doing your learning outside of the classroom, because that's the world that they will be living in.
So when you go on field work, it's not necessarily like a field trip. It's applied learning.
Thank you for coming. Welcome to Nielsen.
If I see the things I'm learning in school applied to that specific job, it's going to make me want to work more and make me more motivated.
And that's our starting point, is both a belief and an expectation that everyone can do remarkable things.
Just knowing that you have potential inside of you, and it doesn't matter where you come from, you know that you'll be able to do as much as the person next to you.
Anything is possible if I am somebody who's persistent, if I'm somebody who's kind, courageous, collaborative, and all those other core values that we hold dear.
As I go on through college and as I go on through life, I'll keep that in mind to believe in myself more, because I'm much more capable than I think I am.
Great. So hopefully that was helpful, just to hear some other voices besides, for the majority of the time tonight, Damon and I's. At this point, if you're joining us late, we've talked a little bit about the history of school, talked about our partnership with Yale, some of the things we value. Just want to talk a little bit about the application process. The thing most people want to know is, I'll just start with the thing people ask first is like, do I have a chance? And I'm, the good news is yes, everyone who applies, who lives in New York City, you have a chance. We do have a lot of applicants. I know people like to know exactly how many or exactly their chance. It differs year to year. So there's nothing I can say of like, here's the concrete percentage that you have of getting in. What I can say is, yes, we have a lot of people apply. And yes, we do have students who stay with us from middle school to high school. But also every year, we do have some students to leave, not many. We retain most of our students, about 90% each year. I hear that the citywide average for 6 through 12 schools is about 65%. So, our students do choose to stay, even those who have offers to specialized high schools and other places, many of them choose to stay with us. But for those students who do leave, those seats open up, and the DOE often provides additional students to us just to make sure we have enough students in the building. I wish I could serve everyone who was interested and really believed in our school and our mission, but we can't. We are a small school, so there are a limited number of seats, and those seats are through basically a lottery run by the DOE. We don't see the application of we don't touch the applications. They go into your middle school. The DOE will tell us who gets an offer, and we will reach out and contact the people who get an offer in the spring. Again, especially this year with so many things that are unknown, I really can't provide concrete numbers on chances or what I think is going to happen. What I can say is you're doing everything you can. If you come to this open house tonight, learn about our school, and on your application, you rank us high, I would recommend number one. The ranking does matter. If it is important. I know there was a little confusion in the chat, and I just want to clear it up. The ranking does matter. It doesn't in some instances where students are continuing forward with us, and it doesn't matter as far as some students having like a particular advantage over others. I know if your child has an IEP or your child doesn't have an IEP, you can still apply, and the DOE will determine how many seats there are, and whatever the case may be for your child, they will have an opportunity to get in. And again, that lottery will run, and we will find out in the spring who's accepted. I don't envy any of you as parents, as eighth graders. It's a really daunting task. We know it's hard for you. We know right now that all schools are saying rank us number one. All schools are saying you need to rank us high. We have a lot of people apply. We know you have to make this decision without seeing the building. We know that, and I just want to put out there, like, look, our team is here to support families who have questions, reaching out to Ms. Shegman, Ms. Barcia, myself, Mr. McCord. We'll do our best to answer your questions. The thing that is the most important, besides, yes, put us high on the application and move forward, is people like to know, is this school a good fit for my child? And I always answer of like, it's a good fit for a family that believes in what we're saying. We aren't going to change who we are. We're going to have crew, we're going to have expedition, and we're going to, really value students building relationships. And if you are a family who's very interested in like rote memorization and worksheets, and that's your idea of rigor or challenge or being ready for college, then we're not a good fit. And that would not be something I would move forward with in the application process. There are plenty of schools that offer a different type of program. And I just think what's most important as a family is looking at what speaks to you and what's the type of education you're invested in for the next 4 years for preparing your child. So I'm going to hand it off to Mr. McCord, just in case I missed one or two things about the application process, and he can clear those up.
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'm going to talk for a few minutes about what you can anticipate if you do get an offer and you are able to attend MELS. And I do want to underscore how difficult this is to have this conversation when all we do is see each other on the screen, and we don't even get to see you all, not to mention have you in the building or take a tour or anything like that. So, but I am going to go over a few quick things in terms of logistics when we get in the building. I'm also going to drop a link in the chat to a folder that has some documents that may be helpful in terms of looking through some of the expectations and rules that we have at MELS. So we are a school that has a uniform for high school. The uniform is not incredibly complicated. It's you basically just have to have a MELS shirt and khaki pants. But The reason we do that is, some schools think a uniform solves all their discipline problems, and that's not really our approach. We don't believe that. We really do it to develop a shared sense of community. And as I mentioned earlier, we have such a diverse range of students coming from all kinds of different backgrounds. We want the focus to be on what you're actually expressing in terms of you as a person, the quality of your ideas, the quality of your character. And we don't want people focused on who's wearing what jeans or what shoes or what fancy shirt. And we always say this when we have open houses in person. Students, if you are making a choice of what school to go to based on what you're able to wear, you are probably not using your full capability to make an informed decision. A lot of students will be like, oh, I can't express myself if I have to wear a uniform. And as I said, we expect you to express yourself through how you treat other human beings and the way you attack problems and the ways you approach learning and challenging content and how inquisitive you are. That's how you express yourself. Clothing is just one piece of it. So if you are to talk to any MELS student who's in 11th or 12th grade or even in college, they will tell you like the uniform was kind of a thing in 9th grade, and after a while you just get used to it and it's not a big deal. So we've dropped our uniform policy in that Google Drive folder that I just shared. We also are a school that is really, really consistent with cell phone usage. So we don't allow cell phones to be used in the building. We're consistent with the mayor's policy in terms of students are allowed to bring them to the building, but once they're here, they have to be put away. And if we hear them or see them, we confiscate them and a parent has to come pick them up. That sounds really strict, but we like to think of it as being really consistent. And as a result, like, you see some things on Instagram and Twitter and YouTube of like crazy things happening in classroom and kids all have their phones out. That is definitely not the situation here at MELS. We're really focused on the learning, and cell phones rarely interrupt that. So, and it's also nice for teenagers, and adults to actually have a break from their phones and just focus on like bettering themselves rather than browsing through TikTok or whatever is on their phone at the moment. So, as we start to think about like what school is going to look like when we get back to normal, whatever that is, we do just want to kind of run through a few pieces of what the day is going to look like, a typical day at MELS, when we're back in the building full time. So, we have our high school students in that, oh, whoops, I did not share it to everybody. I'm going to share it to everybody again. In that folder that I just posted to the chat, you will see a document that's called High School Course and Regent Sequence. That lays out every single kind of structure for making sure students are going to have all the required courses they need to graduate, plus all the coursework that colleges want to see. Because like we said at the beginning, our number one goal is getting your children into the college of their choice. And so your students will have English, social studies, math, science. They will have world language. They will have an art class. They will have art or music. They'll have PE, and they will have crew. Crew happens every single morning. And the thing about our classes is they're 68 minutes long. So because of the way we approach learning, you can't do deep learning in a 45-minute block. So our classes are 68 minutes long. They meet 4 times a week. And our teachers do a lot of collaborative planning to make sure that there are a number of connections across different content areas. We also have an after-school program. So we are on the Metropolitan Avenue campus. So we share sports teams with Queens Metropolitan High School. We've had a number of students have very successful athletic careers. We've had a number of students get college scholarships for sports. But we're not just about sports. We also have a nationally recognized award-winning speech team at MELS that has been great, as well as a number of like different arts after school programs. We've had jazz ensemble after school. We've had art portfolio after school. So we really want to try and give students as much opportunity as possible to get involved in things that not only look good on college applications, but also give them another experience outside of the normal classroom to connect with other students and to do some things that interest them. We also, I know it was already asked in the Q&A, but we do have AP or advanced placement courses. It is currently AP English, AP Calculus, AP Capstone, AP Biology, and you know, we're always kind of looking to see what might be the next, or also AP Government, what might be the next AP course we could add that would really connect to students and not just be, you know, some schools have a wide portfolio of AP classes, but they're not really that much different than the normal classes. We really want to make sure it's in line with what we value as a school in terms of project-based learning and relevant coursework. So that's a little bit about what the day will look like. Our school day is 8:30 to 3:20 during normal times. Obviously right now it's a little different. 5 days a week. On Wednesdays, we dismiss a little early so teachers can do professional development together. And like I said, if there are any other questions about logistics, please just drop them in the Q&A. And I'm going to turn it back over to Pat.
Thanks. I know in the chat people are asking about specific trips and clubs and teams. I just want to put it out there. There are a lot. Like we have almost 30 campus sports teams. So like I'm not going to list all of them. You know, if you have a concern about whether that sport is offered, you can certainly email Mr. McCord and I, send us a private message. But just know we got a lot of them. We got it covered. And again, for after school, we've had some wonderful, you know, jazz ensemble and an art portfolio and a theater after school. We've had a lot over the years. As for what we'll offer next year, it's tough telling. That'll depend on our budget, but again, we do have a lot of programs and activities so that meet a lot of what kids are, high school students are looking for. So again, if you want to follow up with specific ones, you can let us know. And same for trips, it's kind of dependent on the curriculum, but we have done some pretty cool things over the years. So just ending, you know, I mentioned earlier, tonight you're trying to make this decision, and I just want to go back to a couple reasons you would apply here. So, you know, you're applying here if you want a high school where your kid's going to be known well, where they're not going to be a number, where they're going to be known well by adults. You know, the high school, well, that just that time can be challenging for a lot of reasons. And clearly, you know, as we emerge from COVID next year, there'll be more challenges. You know, students will need that support and that individual support. So we think our school is a great place in that regard. And again, you know, you're applying to MELS if you're looking for something that's not about memorizing and spitting back regurgitating facts. You're applying to MELS because you want a high school that's going to challenge you, get you to think about the world, examine the events that are going on around us right now that are unbelievable and give us a lot to think about. You value field work, getting out of the building, learning out in the world. And you value equity and diversity. Again, I know Mr. McCord mentioned it earlier, but we are a diverse school. We think that isn't just like something nice to say. We think that kids really learn a lot from one another, and that bringing groups of students together that really represent Queens and the diversity in Queens, like that helps prepare our kids for college too. our students emerge as great thinkers and great talkers and great communicators with all kinds of students and people. And I think a lot of that is due to our student body. Again, you're applying here if you value investigating as learning, and then you're applying here because you recognize, like, look, the data here is really strong. Like, our high school results, like, we don't emphasize the regions. Our kids do well on them because we have thinkers, and we support students to move off into the college that is the right choice for them. And our students have gotten into some selective colleges, and they stay there, and they're successful in college. So those are all reasons why you would want to consider applying to our school. Just to end this night, we are going to take a couple live questions and answer them. If we haven't answered them, please, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat, and Damon and I are happy to answer any remaining questions. And then we're going to bring this to a close. And again, we are here through email if you want to follow up after tonight. Damon, you want to take a question from the chat?
Well, the chat is disabled. We're only using the Q&A function. So, but I do just want to reiterate, just because it's been asked a number of times, MELS is an open enrollment school. So we do not screen students. We do not look at test scores. We don't look at letters of recommendation. The higher you put us up on your application, the greater your chances of getting in are. Every year we have about 2,400 people apply for what's really about 20 or 30 seats. And so you have to pretty much assume that there will be hundreds of students who are ranking MELS as their number one choice. So it's really important that if you feel like MELS is the school that you want to get into the most, you should definitely rank us as number one. If you feel we're your second favorite, then rank us as number two. Whatever you need to do is fine with us, but understand the DOE tries to match people to their highest rank. After that, we just wait for the Department of Education to go through, and they do a computer-based lottery and select the students that are going to be matched to MELS. So like Pat said, we don't have anything to do with the applications. And despite that, we have results that are as good, if not better, than most of the screen schools in New York City, the schools that only take students that have certain grades and things like that. So we're really proud of the work that our teachers and staff and families have done to really establish MELS High School as one of the best high schools in the city.
Someone in the chat asked about the colleges students have gone into. It's pretty varied. I mean, I think that we have a really diverse school. So we have had literally hundreds in only 5 years, hundreds of different schools that offered acceptances. We have students at places like they've had acceptances to Barnard and Yale and Cornell and Wheaton and the SUNY schools and the CUNY schools. And, we've had students at the Rochester. We had a student who's at the Rochester Institute for Technology. We have, it is a really varied group of schools that kids have gotten into. I think we've gotten into, a lot of pretty much all the CUNYs and SUNYs. And, for some students, they've chosen to stay more local, and some students have chosen to push further out. But again, at the end of the day, we're really just trying to help everyone find the right fit, because that's what it's about for applying to colleges, is helping students through that application process, which is another challenging one, and helping them find the right fit.
So we've answered a fair amount of questions. I think our tab is 33, and we're thankful that all of you decided to take some time out on a very busy and news-filled Wednesday evening to stop by and see our presentation. We are looking at possibly adding another open house date in December. So if you follow us on Instagram or follow our Facebook page or check out our website, we will post information there. And we are also going to post the recording of this video to our YouTube channel, which you can access through our website as well. So we want to thank everybody for coming by. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at the school directly. We're pretty responsive to emails, and we will get back to you. That's it for us. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night.
Thanks. Stay safe, everybody. We send our best during a challenging time.